Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, no matter what time of day it is. Want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and joining us for this amazing session. Just want to cover some basics before we get started, and Tanya is actually in the green room. She's ready to go. But just wanted to cover some basic housekeeping rules before we get started. Uh, Things have changed since the last free webinar, so we do want to cover how you're going to sign into your session because that is new. But welcome everybody. My name is Zach. I am the president of the Missouri chapter of APCO and one of the instructors for the Missouri Professional Training Partnership. Today's free webinar is provided through the Missouri Professional Training Partnership. We are striving to develop today's heroes and help tomorrow's leaders out. That's not actually our tagline. I forgot what our tagline is. It's something along that line, but that's kind of where we're at. So first and foremost, we have had something change. So what you're going to do is when you get ready to sign in and sign your affidavit of training, you are going to go to mopartnership.glide.page. And when you get there, you will create a profile. So let me go ahead and tell you or show you what I'm talking about. I'll share the screen. And let's see it. Okay, so you guys should see, yes, you do. Okay. You should see this. So if you go to our moapco.org/training page, under here, under upcoming training quick links, you'll find this partnership online training portal. If you click there, you will actually see once this loads in, maybe, viewer, up here, there will be a new or a create profile or sign in button. Go ahead and create the profile. When you get there, sessions are still laid out like they always are. But when we get up here to, where'd it go? I'm going to have to fix something while we're in the session, but you'll just click in here and then click the sign affidavit of training button. Everything that you have will be here. Make sure that it's correct. Click the I attest button and then hit submit. From there, it will be in your profile and back under session history. So that's really all I've got to say. We do have some upcoming stuff. If you look at June 13th, it's not on the calendar yet, but our annual summer summit will be there. And we will be doing several online recorded sessions for you. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get that fixed while Tanya is talking. I'm going to welcome Tanya to the stage. Hi, Tanya. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How is everybody?
I think we're doing good. So thank you, first and foremost, for agreeing to do this. I think that, as we were talking about in the green room, I think that domestic violence calls are extremely important for us because, unfortunately, as telecommunicators, 911 operators, we tend to interact with the same individuals multiple times, and it can lead us to be jaded. So I'm really interested in what you have to say for the session today. I'm excited to learn and to refresh myself and not get in that jaded mindset. So thanks for coming here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be with everybody.
And with that, I'm going to take myself off of here and turn it over to you, ma'am.
Alrighty. Does it look like a presentation mode on your end there?
It does not. I've got the PowerPoint mode.
I know. What?
If you selected share tab, you may have selected the wrong one. please bear with us while we work through some technical difficulties. So go ahead and close out of that.
So stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Okay.
And then when you go to present, hit share screen, and then instead do entire screen, and then click share my audio, and we'll try it that way.
Okay, so screen sharing works best on a computer
with multiple screens.
I don't have multiple screens. Oh, share entire screen. Okay, I see that.
And then down below, there's the share my audio tab.
All right. How's that?
There we go. That looks good.
Okay,
so, and then there's that little pop-up that says you're sharing. Just hit hide on that.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody who's joining. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm logged in on my phone too, so I can actually see your guys' chat and comments. So if you guys have questions, I'm actually paying attention both sides. So quick introduction on me. My name is Tanya Lee. I'm actually married to Nathan Lee of the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. And before I even knew Nathan or was even in the public safety industry, I was in the medical field. And so I identify with a lot of you dispatchers in the fact that I love helping people. That's why I got into the industry of healthcare. And probably about 5 years into doing that job, I got pregnant, had my very first baby, and started a medical transcription business because I didn't think that anybody could take care of my baby the way that I could. And I was panicky about leaving her with anyone. So I started a medical transcription business. So I'm a really good typer, just like all of you, but I definitely could not do the job that you do. I am way too emotional. Things hang with me for way too long. So I think that you guys are amazing. You guys are truly the biggest heroes, in my opinion, out there. You guys have the hardest job out of anybody that I know. The company that I work for, we work in multiple different vertical markets. Air traffic controllers are not more stressed out than you guys are, do not have a more difficult job than you guys do. So I love being able to give back to you guys. And when Nathan and I got together, he obviously learned about my past and my history. And I think it was probably during COVID when he had asked me if I would feel comfortable sharing my story, just because I know that during COVID, you guys probably all started experiencing a huge rise in domestic violence calls. So that is why I'm doing this. I teach this 8-hour class through the foundation. I do 1 hour and 2 hour, 4 hour versions of it. So I'm not going to be able to get into a lot of the personal aspect of my story today, just for time constraints and things like that. But I hope that I'm going to share enough with you guys that it will be valuable and will be helpful and give you a little bit better understanding as to what these people are going through when they actually give you a call. So I am the mother to 7 children, and I know that makes all of you guys super, super jealous. But yeah, Nathan and I blended our family about 6 years ago. And so, yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So I don't know how many people are actually watching this live right now, but just quickly in the comments, if you could let me know how often you take a domestic violence call. I'm just going to give it a couple seconds here for anybody to respond. Let me know if it's once a month, if it's once a week. I'm going to wait for you guys to respond. All right. Jessica says probably at least once a day. Sandy says usually several times a day. And that is probably daily. Kylie says, okay, yeah. most of the time when I'm doing this in person, everybody's saying multiple times a day. And then I ask, how many times are you annoyed by the people that are calling in? And it's totally okay to tell me that you're annoyed, that you don't understand, like, why are they still in that situation, right? Why do they stay when they could just get out, right? Should be super easy. Okay, but it's not. So we're going to go ahead and play this video.
911, operator 901. Where's the emergency?
127, been there?
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
All right. So that was an ad that was played during the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if any of you guys are, if you guys watched that or were around when that happened. What did that guy, the dispatcher, what did he do right? I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm just going to wait for a second. Listened beyond the call. That is a great answer. The thing that I love the most, and I know what you guys face every single day that you go into work. I visit hundreds of centers in my job, and I hear the stuff that you guys have to deal with. The people calling in about the neighbor's dog barking, or their Instacart order not being there yet, or asking you guys ridiculous questions. And so it would be totally valid for that dispatcher to say, this isn't the pizza place, and hang up. But he didn't. And he listened, and he was aware of the fact that she was trying to send him a message without actually talking, because she obviously couldn't. Her abuser was listening. Her abuser was there. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I can share personally from you to you guys. I can't tell you how to do your job. Like I said, I cannot do your job. I teach this 8-hour session with Tina DeCola, who just actually retired from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue after 20 some years of service. I teach it with her because she can actually talk to you guys from the dispatch side of things, whereas I cannot. But that is, for me, as somebody who has lived this and gone through this, that's the number one thing that I can say would have been helpful to me. Is if I ever called 911, I would have been desperate at that moment. So for somebody to listen, to show some kindness and some empathy, that would make all of the difference in the world. So we're going to talk about some of the phases that a domestic violence victim goes through, just so you guys understand, and maybe it will make a little bit of a difference the next time that you take one of these calls, just knowing what they've already gone through prior to giving you guys a call. There's a lot of warning signs. There's a lot of things that they go through. That's why I have this slide up here. But the one thing that I will say over anything else is that a domestic violence survivor, I like to call them survivors, they go through a power and control struggle with their abuser. Okay, so I'm going to share some statistics up here on the screen for you guys right now, but it's insane how much this impacts our world. You probably work with somebody who has experienced some version of domestic violence. And these are not just specific to women. Men go through the same exact thing. And we don't have the statistics on that because they're very much less likely to report it, to talk about it, or even admit it. So I like to share that because women are not the only ones who go through this. My story. So I was raised in a really, really small town, very, very sheltered and protected. I was raised by a very religious home. We went to church 4 times a week, and I was of the mentality children should be seen and not heard. So I was really insecure. I was really quiet. I was really shy. And halfway through my junior year of high school, my family moved from Montana to Oregon. And, you know, it was hard for me at that very time to be outgoing enough to make friends, to feel confident. And so it was a struggle for me. I eventually did. I joined a choir and got involved, and I did have some really, really good friends during that time in my life. But super, super insecure. And I think that I was probably a prime candidate for somebody coming in and being able to manipulate and control and just all of those things because I wasn't emotionally healthy. So probably about, I don't know, towards the end of my senior year, I wanted to go to a party. I really wanted to go to a party. I'd never gone. I was really, really afraid of ever disappointing my parents or making them upset. And so I chose not to. I always had a really early curfew. People made fun of me. I never got to do anything that all the rest of my friends got to do. But for whatever reason, one night I decided I wanted to go to a party. So I was designated driver, showed up to this party, and I remember everybody freaking out and being so amazed that Tanya Flickema was at a party. Oh my gosh. So there was a lot of my friends were there and a lot of people that I was in the choir with. Now, when I was in choir, I think a lot of the football boys were a part of the choir as well so that they could meet that elective requirement. And so there was a lot of football players and I was really good friends with some of them. They started freaking out that I was there at that party. And within 15 minutes of me showing up, things kind of got a little out of hand. I don't think that they meant for this to happen, but they pulled me outside and took turns raping me. I share that because I feel like that really played into the mindset a little bit later on down the road for me as far as the relationships that I got myself into. So 2 years after that, I ran into somebody that I went to high school with. You'll see me sitting here next to him. This was at our senior all-night party. But I looked to him as somebody that was safe, somebody that I already knew, and he was 6'8". He was the life of the party. He loved attention. So when he walked into the room, everybody looked at him. He loved it. He did anything he possibly could to be funny, things like that. And I felt like I found my person. You know, they always say opposites attract. He was everything that I wasn't. He was super confident, and we started dating. So in the cycle of violence or the cycle of abuse, there's a pattern and there's a progression. And at the very beginning, it's called the honeymoon phase. Okay. So no signs of violence, nothing out of the ordinary, no warning signs, nothing like that at all. But that gradually will turn into and move into the first phase where a lot of emotional abuse will happen. In my opinion, emotional abuse is probably the worst. The emotional and the mental abuse is worse than the physical abuse ever was, because the physical abuse, there's an end to it. The emotional abuse, I'm still probably working through and experiencing, fallout from. But emotional abuse is non-physical behaviors. This may present in romantic relationships as threats, insults, constant monitoring, excessive jealousy, manipulation, all of those things. For me, it started right probably after we got married. And again, prior to that, never saw any signs of aggression, intimidation, control. It was like a light switch. And the minute that we got married, it was almost like he felt like he had me. And so that was it. He could do whatever he wanted. The emotional abuse started fairly early with me as far as about my weight. He didn't want me to gain any weight. Back then, I was 5'8", 120 pounds. And he made me panicky about the fact that I would ever get any bigger. He didn't want me to get any bigger, didn't want me to gain weight, didn't want me to change at all. My physical appearance was very important to him. And so he would make comments about, oh, your butt's looking like it's getting a little too big. You better be careful. And with that, I wanted to please him. I wanted to make him happy. And so I would keep track of all of the things that I ate in the day, and I would go to the gym after work, and I would make sure that I worked out the amount of time that it took to burn off all of the calories that I ate during the day, just to make sure that I didn't get any bigger. So after a while of doing that, I got myself down to 89 pounds, which 5'8", back then, I thought that I looked really, really good at 89 pounds. But now looking back on it, I obviously know that that's really super unhealthy. I was passing out all the time at work. And one of the doctors that I worked for at the time had to come to me and tell me, like, you're not going to be able to actually keep doing this job if you don't get a handle on it, because you obviously have an eating disorder. And the fear of losing my job made it so that I definitely started trying to get a little bit of control over that. I remember bawling my head off when the scale hit 100 pounds because I was 3 digits. And again, he would make me feel like, don't get too much bigger. This is where I want you. The intimidation factor kept on growing. We had issues when it came to money. If I would question, back then I was 21, 22, and we didn't have a lot of money. So I would be paying attention a lot of times to what was in our bank account. And I would notice $100 go missing or pulled out as far as ATM. And I remember questioning him about that. And he would tell me, you are not to question your husband, and it's none of your business. What do you think? I'm doing something wrong? And would be able to twist that around and gaslight me into thinking that I was the bad one. So all of these things kind of start building up, putting me down and calling names, making me sound like I'm crazy when I would ask him a question about something. He would be able to manipulate the situation and twist it around to the point where my brain got so messed up that he would be able to point to a blue sky and ask me what the color was. And if I said blue, he would tell me I was wrong. And I'm just using this as an example, but he would be able to convince me, even though I knew with everything in me that the sky was blue, somehow he would be able to twist and manipulate to the point where he could tell me I was wrong and I would believe it. That's what the power and control cycle starts with, the emotional and the mental abuse. I'm putting a picture up here on the screen of me when I was going through a lot of this. And I like to point out to everyone, or ask, do I look like I'm going through something horrible? Do I look like a beaten and battered woman in that picture? Go ahead and throw it up in the comments. if you can see. No, ma'am. No. And the thing is that anybody who's going through something like this does not want people to know that they're going through it. They're ashamed. They're afraid. They're embarrassed. And so they're going to hide it. Nobody wants people to know that they're going through this. It eventually moves on into more of the control where they will isolate and control everything about your life. For me, after a while, he didn't want me to hang out with my friends anymore because I really should only want just one person in my life, and that's him. And would make me feel bad if I wanted to spend time with other people because I should only want to spend my time with him. Again, manipulating by using the guilt and gaslighting. This also kind of goes hand in hand with verbal abuse. When somebody uses words to control someone or to make them feel horrible about themselves. All of this starts building up into what we call the tension building phase. It can build over just normal everyday issues that every couple goes through, right? Arguing about finances, arguing about religion, arguing about who's going to empty the dishwasher, things like that. You know, just regular everyday relationship stuff. So what the victim does is they try to please their abuser. They try and do everything they possibly can to make them happy, to avoid any kind of conflict. And that's what I did. I started becoming somebody I didn't even recognize anymore. I would do everything I possibly could to walk on eggshells, to make sure that I didn't rock the boat. And there was no rhyme or reason to what I would do to set him off. But I just remember back in that stage of my life, I lived constantly in fear and stress because I didn't know when the next time would happen where I would make him upset, and I didn't want to do that. After a period of time of somebody going through the emotional and the verbal abuse, it will reach a point to where the physical abuse will actually start. For me, I remember the night that it happened like it was yesterday. My abuser really, really loved the Dallas Cowboys. And he was watching a game. I was folding laundry, and he was freaking out because the game wasn't going well. And I remember kind of joking around with him, like, come on, it's a football game. Like, seriously? Now, unbeknownst to me at that time, I did not know it yet, but he had a really, really bad gambling problem. And I'm sure that he probably had money on the game, and it was not going well for him. And so he increasingly was getting more and more upset, freaking out, throwing things at the TV. And I remember rolling my eyes. I remember just thinking, this is so ridiculous, and rolling my eyes. And the next thing I knew, he was dragging me through the house by my hair and pulled me into the bathroom and put my head in the toilet over and over and over until I thought I was going to die. That was the first time that he laid his hands on me. Wasn't the first time that he scared me, wasn't the first time that he intimidated me, but it was the first time that he actually physically hurt me. And it was confusing because it's the person that I loved more than anything else in the world. That was the one that was hurting me. And I will never forget that night when, after it was all said and done, we were sitting on the bathroom floor and he started crying, and I ended up having to be the one to console him and make sure that he felt good and that he felt okay. And I'll never forget how that was my norm, and that was the course of my life. That's the pattern that I started settling into. And I look back on it now and think of how messed up it was that I actually had to make the person who hurt me feel better. But that's what these people who call you have gone through over and over and over. And if they're calling you because you are their last hope. They think they're going to die. That's why they called. They're afraid for their life. And they're not okay. They've gone through so much psychological trauma. They've gone through so much emotional abuse. They don't even know which way is up. And so hopefully hearing some of this history and some of these cycles will help you understand a little bit more clearly why they do stay, because they don't know how to get out of it. They don't know that it's actually bad. They just know that they're unhappy and that they want it to stop. But it's also not super, super easy to pack up everything and leave the person that you love. The end of the cycle is called the apology phase. Like I said, I was consoling my abuser when he did the things that he did to me. I'll never forget the next day after the first time, he showed up at my work with a bouquet of tulips. And he had a card on there that said, "My tulips want to kiss your tulips." And all of the women that worked in the office with me thought that that was the most romantic and amazing gesture and had told me how lucky I was. And I was so messed up by that point that I remember thinking, I really am lucky, like that he cares enough to say sorry and that he cares enough to make the effort to come and do such a grand gesture. And so that is the cycle of violence. Now, does anybody have any questions up to this point? I like to stop really right about here just to see if you guys have any comments, if you have any questions. Just gonna wait a couple more minutes because I know that there's a little bit of a delay here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video and then we'll keep on going.
It is the question that I'm asked the most. Why did I stay? Why does any woman stay? And for the life of me, I can't understand why people are obsessed with it, because to me, it's so obvious. Why does anybody stay with somebody that they love? You know, we've all been in relationships that, even if they weren't abusive, we're not working any longer. And we all stay far longer than we want. And you stay for the same reasons. You stay because you love the person, or you love what you used to have, or you're trying to take care of your children.
When we ask, why did you stay? You know, we're blaming the victim for their abuse, as opposed to asking, why did you hit this person? Or why are you violent? Or why do you feel the need to be violent?
Why would somebody abuse? Why would somebody beat the people who love him or her most on earth? Until we ask that question, we won't be able to obliterate domestic violence. We have got to focus on the perpetrators of violence, not the victims.
It's cliche, but he really was Prince Charming. He was very kind and sweet and nice. I left what I was doing to come and be with him, and I was alone with him. I didn't have any friends or family in the area. I couldn't find a job, so he paid the bills. And so we got into an argument, and that's the first time that he hit me. He actually threw me up against the wall and started to choke me. And I didn't really understand what was happening because he was not that person all this time. And so when he finally let me go, I thought it was something I did. You know, I wasn't thinking to run. After we got married, it didn't stop. It just got worse and worse and worse. And I felt like I was trapped. At that point, we had moved from where we were across the country again, and I was further isolated. I didn't have any friends or family, and essentially he still was the breadwinner. I was dependent on him. So if I left, what was I going to do? Where was I going to go? How was I going to take care of myself? I felt like no one would understand, and I felt like no one would care.
The first full-out physical attack was 5 days before the wedding. Part of me knew I had to leave him right then, that I couldn't marry somebody who had done this. But then this other part of me said, but wait, it was one time. And I told myself he'd never do it again, that I was sure he was very sorry, and I didn't leave. I married him. You stayed with this guy.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. I mean, he told me, and I absolutely, that's the part that is always so interesting to me. It's like, the standard question: why did you leave? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Well, he was trained by the United States Marine Corps to hunt people down and kill them, and he told me if I left, he would hunt me down and kill me. That's why I didn't leave. I used to pull what he would call my disappearing acts, and that would be I would, get the boys and get out, because it just was getting too intense. But I would always go back because at least I knew where he was. At least I knew the routine. I knew what to expect. But, it's a terrible way to live, to always be looking over your shoulder. He didn't start out with being abusive. He started out with being incredibly sweet and incredibly attentive and incredibly thoughtful and incredibly kind, and saying things to me that no one had ever said, and paying attention to me in ways that no one ever had. And I was really taken by it.
One of the reasons why we stay is because the behavior is such a drastic change from the person we met in the beginning. And we're constantly looking for the man in the beginning instead of concentrating on the man that is in front of us. Once I understood that, then I made the decision, I gotta go. This is not the same man I married. I mean, I love him, but he's gonna kill me.
With every violent moment, I felt further connected to him in this kind of twisted way. I felt that, we had this secret that bound us together, and that this was something big and we were working on it. And so we had to stay together until we worked it out. The violence got to a point where I realized that I could die. I had to create a plan. I had to figure out where I was going to go and how I was going to get there and who I was going to reach out to for help if there was any. I was scared. I was afraid that he would find me. I was afraid that he would be so angry that I left, that he would come after me. I couldn't just get up and walk away.
And it was the most terrible feeling to know that I could leave and I still couldn't leave, because I was bound by this psychological trap that I thought was love, that wasn't love. I had so much denial. If you had come to me and said, are you being physically abused? If my doctor had asked me, or a best friend, I would have said, no, I'm not being physically abused.
You do feel isolated, and you keep a lot of secrets. You keep a lot of secrets in your heart, in your home, in your head. I stayed because I believed him when he said he wasn't going to do it again. I stayed because I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have any money. I didn't have access to any resources. I stayed because my religious community convinced me that I couldn't get divorced because God would hate me. I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because he was the love of my life, and I wanted to believe that love could conquer all, including abuse.
All right, so I know that the very first time that I started doing research for putting this 8-hour class together When I came across that video, I realized that I wasn't alone and that there were other people out there that knew exactly what I had been through and how I felt. The blonde lady that was abused right before her wedding day, her name is Leslie Morgan Steiner, and she does an amazing TED Talk. I can't remember, I think it's like 22 minutes. So it's a really, really good resource for you guys if you want to hear her story a little bit more. She's an amazing speaker, gives you a little bit more insight to the mind of a abused victim. Some of the things that they touched on there were they stayed for religious reasons. I go into that a little bit more. I'm not going to take the time because it's already 12:40. So, but there's religious reasons, there's financial reasons. A lot of times an abuser will not allow their victim to even have a job or have access to a bank account or credit card or anything, because they further can control somebody by not letting them have any kind of independence at all. That ensures that they're not going to have any kind of access to leaving. So if they have children together, and, you know, luckily for me, I did not have kids with my abuser, but if I had, that would be a million reasons why they would be able to control me even more. So again, just wanting you to understand the psychological trauma that they've experienced is the reason why they stay. It's not because they're, you know, dumb and can't. Sorry, guys. There we go. It's not because they're incapable. It's because they have been so emotionally and mentally abused. They don't even know what side is up, like I said. So they don't feel like they can. It feels helpless. It feels hopeless to them. So when they call you, I hope it helps you understand a little bit more, knowing what they've been through, and really just kindness and empathy. And, you know, Tina will share in our 8-hour class sometimes that sending police out is probably not the best route to go in a situation like this. Sometimes it's better to send an ambulance and just say, listen, I'm just going to send an ambulance to make sure that you're okay. Because you also need to, in a domestic violence situation, you need to make sure that you're taking good care of the responders when they're actually going on site. Because as much as they're begging you for help, the minute that somebody comes out, they know that the consequences for police or anybody else showing up, the consequences for them are going to be a million times worse when they leave. So we need to be conscious and protective of the responders that are going out as well. I have heard multiple stories of domestic violence victims actually becoming the person that our responders need to be protected from. And this is why, because they've, again, so much psychological abuse. They're not thinking clearly. They're not thinking right. The other thing that I feel like is probably the number one most important thing that you guys can do is taking care of yourself. This job is so unbelievably hard, and I am so passionate about the health and wellness movement that's going on, especially in this industry right now. I feel like it's the only way for you to be able to protect yourself, your emotional stability, is to take care of you first. There's a reason why when we get on an airplane that they say for you to put the mask on you first before you put it on your children or before you're helping anybody else. And that's because if you're not okay, you can't help the people that you love, right? So Taking care of yourself is super, super important. Having a peer support program in place in your center, it doesn't cost any money to get a peer support program in place. And if you have need or interest and need help getting going on that, please, please reach out to me and I will get you in touch with Tina, who is phenomenal at peer support. She put a peer support program together at Las Vegas Fire and Rescue after the Mandalay Bay shooting. Therapy. Now, I can't really interact with you guys a whole lot, but I know that you guys probably have benefits through your insurance that you have with your job. Utilize those benefits. And if you have visits where you can talk to a therapist, utilize them. It doesn't mean you're weak. In this industry, more than anything else, I think that we need to normalize not being okay. I think that that's probably the most important thing, because there is a crisis going on in this industry right now where suicide is on the rise, and it's because we are not taking care of ourselves. You guys are dealing with so much trauma that you may not even realize is impacting you as much as it is. Taking care of yourself can look like exercise, eating right, something small and little that you're just doing for yourself that you know makes you happy, taking a walk, taking a bubble bath, planning and budgeting for a massage every month. I don't know what it's going to look like for you, but I think that it's so, so unbelievably important for you to understand what works for you and what you can do for yourself to fill up your cup. When you're dealing with these calls, using a customer service approach, being their advocate, not showing any kind of judgment, just understanding, kindness, patience is probably the most important thing for these people who are calling in. You know, I shared some statistics at the very beginning of this that are staggering in and of itself, but one of the ones that stood out the most to me was that 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. We don't know about the men. We don't have a really, really good, solid grasp on the number that men have experienced domestic violence, but 1 in 4 women will experience. And so the next time that you go into work, take a look around you. How many women are actually in your center with you, or how many people even? And then you count 1 in 4. It's actually really, really staggering when you're in a room full of people and you ask 1 out of 4 people to stand up. But I tell my story for 2 reasons. I have 4 daughters of my own. I can't imagine them going through a lot of the things that I went through. So I tell my story for them so that they can grow up to be strong, emotionally healthy women. But I also share my story for you. And I really hope that hearing even just this little bit today will help you have a better understanding of what these people have gone through before they have even called you. I hope that you start taking good care of yourself so that you know what's going to work for you so that you don't experience that burnout, or when you are experiencing that burnout, you know what you can do for yourself to get out of that. If you're familiar with the Denise Amberly Foundation, you know what Denise went through the day that she was kidnapped. You are the difference. You can be the difference for every single person. No matter the outcome, you can be the difference for them. So I challenge you guys to remember your why, to remember why you got into this job, why you do this job, why you love this job. I challenge you to take care of yourself and know what that looks like and start even making tiny, small changes right now so that you can be better every single time that you're taking one of these calls. Does anybody have any questions?
Wow, just thank you. It's very powerful, and there's been some comments throughout the session thanking you for being willing to come up here and talk about this. So I know that when you guys came to Missouri for the conference in March, um, we started discussing the Gabby incident. So I don't mean to throw you out on a limb, but I'm going to kind of. And before I say this, I also want to preface that um, I am not under the belief that all male law enforcement are like this. Okay, so just gonna get that out beforehand. But do you believe that if we take domestic violence calls from females, we should strive to try to get a female to go to the scene?
I think it would probably be really, really helpful, just because somebody who's gone through all of this already is already going to have a fear of men in general, or vice versa. Honestly, like if it's a man who has called, there's going to be PTSD and things like that. And I love that you brought up the fact that we're starting to partner up with the Gabby Petito Foundation. I reached out to them because obviously they have a passion and a mission for domestic violence prevention and awareness and all of that. So I do talk about it a lot in my 8-hour class. But, domestic violence, even within public safety, is really, really prevalent. So I think that, yes, that's a very, very, very good question. And I love that Tina talks about sending an ambulance for a wellness check. It's less intimidating than a police officer. It's less threatening. So it's something that you guys can all discuss and see if that's something that you want to implement or talk about. Or, again, like I cannot tell you guys how to do your job. I'm not even going to pretend like I know how to do that. But I think that it's worth having a conversation and like maybe reviewing it a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And before anybody takes any action on, just always sending a female officer to female complainant domestic violence calls, check with your policy, check with your supervisors, do a little bit of research on the Gabby case, and Tanya and Tina DeCola are great resources for that, and they can explain a little bit more in depth on why I brought that up. I don't know enough about that to talk one-on-one right here. I just a little bit of our conversation back in March. So, but thank you for number one, being willing to come on here and talk through your story, for being brave and helping us as the first link in a lot of people's emergency response chain, to have a better understanding of what's going on the other end, and why, as you put, survivors stay, why they don't break the cycle on their own, and why we sometimes have to be a lot more empathetic than we are with other callers because of what's going on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy to get on and share your story, but thank you. It's very impactful. So,
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll leave it open for just a minute longer for any comments or questions. I do want to.
He said on there, the safety issues. They don't send EMS without law protection. I totally understand that. Again, I can't tell you, like Zach said, definitely check with your policy and procedures. We do talk a lot more about this again in the 8-hour class, and Tina actually has a lot that she can share from the dispatch side of things. So, but yeah, don't do anything without checking, to make sure that it's okay.
Yeah. And actually, that's a great segue. This presentation, this 1-hour presentation, was a partnership between the Missouri Professional Training Partnership and the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. This is just a snippet of an 8-hour class. So if you want to learn more, go to deniseamberlee.org. Look at their class listing if you're interested in bringing them to your agency. You can contact them. They have a contact form, and they'll be able to give you a quote on how much it's going to cost for an 8-hour class or anything like that. So, did I lose you, Tanya, or are you still there? Oh, there you are. You froze for a second. So, boom. Look at that comment.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. That's really sweet.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell her I appreciate her for saying that.
Just to touch base before we end, if you have an issue finding the affidavit of training after you create a profile, what you're going to do is go up to the top right of your screen. It should be the first letter of your email address, should be up there in a little circle. Click on that, click View Profile, and then click Edit Profile, and make sure that that form is filled out. If that form is not filled out and showing answers on it, then your profile is not created fully, and you won't be able to see that affidavit of training. That's where it pulls all of the information from. You should only have to do it once. Every time that you create a profile, you should only have to do that once. So if you have issues, don't hesitate to let me know, and I will try to get it fixed. This is a new system, so there's going to be a little bit of bugs as we go forward. But the end goal is to make it a lot more streamlined on your end, to where you don't have to enter the same information over and over and over again. You just have to click the button and then click sign in. So after that, certificates are still going out mostly on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This week they're going to be a little delayed. They're probably going to come out on Thursday and then next Monday, and that's just because of my work schedule this week. So I'm not seeing any other comments or questions, so I'll go ahead and let you have the rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.